First thing is roll call. We have Ms. Arsenal with us. Judge. Kelly. We do have a quorum. According to our bylaws, the majority of the members seated constitutes a quorum. In this case, it's 4, so we do have a quorum. We'll get to the issue, the first thing in new business of the bylaws when we get there. We'll address that in a second. So if we could please stand, we'll go on in the page. So Ms. Ella, since you are our newest member, if you could offer a prayer for us this evening.
Okay. Lord, please be with us at this meeting tonight. Let us have a productive meeting. Be with us as we travel home. Thank you.
Amen.
Sorry, y'all, I'm not good at.
That's
praying
perfect.
aloud.
That's very good.
All right.
Okay, please remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item is approval of the minutes. These are minutes from the June meeting. I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to look through, please.
I have a correction to the minutes.
Yes, Ms. Arsenal.
Okay, under announcements, A,
I'm sorry.
last page, page 4.
Okay,
Instead of saying Monday, 19 June 2023, it should be August the 21st, 2023.
yes. You can make that correction. Any objections? We'll get to a vote in a second, not yet. Any other, that's it? Okay. Any comment from the public regarding the minutes? Okay. So we have this change to be made, so on announcements, reminder, the next library board meeting will be Monday, August 21st, 2023.
Yes,
Yes?
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay, 4 yeses. And do we have a motion to approve the minutes with the adjustment, with the correction?
I motion to approve the agenda with the adjustment.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say, I'll call for a question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have passed. Next item. Comments from the library board. I don't know. Why? Comments about what? It's always there, okay? I must, you won't come up with slot through. Anybody got anything? No, okay.
You can introduce me.
Oh, that's what it was. I'm sorry, thank you, Ms. Allen, forgive me. Rolling along here. Okay, So, as you know, last year we started posting a little bit about each one of the board members so that the public knew who were the people on the board. And Ms. Ellis new, so welcome. You were here in June, but I wasn't, so this is number 2. But I want to formally say thank you for stepping up to the plate and getting involved and being on the board. So this is a little bio about Miss Ella. I read this on everybody else, and then of course James read mine, so that was a while ago. Ella grew up in Rayne, Louisiana, where she married a high school sweetheart, Stephen Arsamar, in 1988. Ella has been a resident of the city of Lafayette since 1995, where she and her husband reared their 3 children. Ella has been a Lafayette community volunteer for over 24 years, beginning in 1998 as a PTO mom when her firstborn child started kindergarten. She continued to volunteer as PTO mom, taking an active role in her children's schools, some years volunteering for 2 schools at the same time, until the last child graduated from high school in 2015. While volunteering for different schools, Ella started attending school board meetings in 2010. Ella has served on the Lafayette Parish School System Transportation Zone Advisory Board and has participated in other LPSS committee meetings. Ella still attends school board meetings as her schedule permits. In 2011, Ella joined Concerned Citizens for Good Government, which led to opportunities for volunteering in other organizations in the Lafayette community. Ella still volunteers for several different organizations that involve helping children in education. Ella has served and continues to serve on other nonprofit boards in the community, including a New Vision Leadership Foundation of Acadiana, board chairwoman, for the love of our schools, CAFES, Acadiana Pace Alliance, Embrace This Space / Parish Proud, Generation Sports, United Way of Acadiana. How do you get time to do that? Lafayette Parish Education Stakeholders Council, New Hope Lafayette, and the Mayor President's Youth Advisory Council, YAC group. Ella seeks opportunities to serve others in the community by working with individuals, nonprofit organizations, and by attending different public community meetings to share the wisdom she has gained to help individuals and organizations to better serve the lives of others in Lafayette communities. So, welcome and thank you very much. Okay, we can go on to the next item now, right? Okay. Director report and comment.
Okay, so that sounds like repeating myself all the time, but I just want to bring up some patron issues. So in June, one of his staff members at Maine was assaulted in the morning while walking between his car and the rear entrance at the Maine Library. The police arrested the perpetrator. In June, a patron vandalized the restrooms on the first floor of the Main Library with hate speech. The same patron repeated this action in July. We have the patron on camera, but we haven't yet identified him. In July, the police arrested 2 men who were conducting a drug deal in the parking lot of the Main Library and then proceeded to enter into the building. That's where they were arrested. In June, a patron was banned from the South Regional Library and then decided to go into the East Regional Library and then came into the Main Library. This person was banned for 30 days, and the person wanted to appeal their ban. So the manager at South did her due diligence to make sure of what it was I would be talking about. And the due diligence involved camera footage of the patron masturbating in the public area of the library. The library called the police, we filed a police report. And I'm regularly accosted on my walk to work by a banned patron. We have added an afternoon security guard to the North Regional Library. I'm telling you all of this because our staff works 40 hours a week, and this is what they sometimes deal with. So please keep that in mind. With regard to the Northeast Library project, We've received proposals from LPSS and 2 private landowners. The project is in the hands of the board and the parish council now. Senator Cloud's library bill became law and went into effect on August 1st. Our library board passed policy changes earlier in the year that put our library in compliance with most of the law before the legislature convened. As of the end of July, the library made procedural changes that brought us into compliance. Children's restricted cards do not have access to Libby by Overdrive, the library's downloadable book platform. While Overdrive has the means to allow parents to make changes to the content their children can access, Overdrive does not have the means to enforce these changes. Our budget looks really good. Library attendance, while lagging pre-pandemic days, is up nearly 5% this year over last year and nearly 12% over the previous year. That's it.
Okay, Assistant Director's report and comments, please.
Recent staff changes include Jacqueline Miller was hired as a library community relations specialist. Lacasina Brown and Madison Bodwin were both promoted to Library Associate 1s. Janet Ardwin, a Library Associate 1, accepted a lateral from south to west. Chazelle Romero, a Library Technical Assistant 2, accepted a lateral from north to the main library. Katie Salvador, Sophie Day, and Kristen Hoffpower were hired as Library Technical Assistant 1s. We are still in the process of filling in the following positions: Regional Library Branch Manager, Librarian 3, Librarian 2, Librarian 1, 3 Library Associate 1s, 2 Library Technical Assistant 3s, 2 Library Technical Assistant 1s, Building Superintendent, and Director's Executive Secretary. So our staff, we are managing, we are doing okay, but we are understaffed, and we are dealing with all the things that Danny also mentioned, so we do appreciate everyone's patience and kindness with our staff whenever coming into the library and dealing with them over the phone or through the internet. The 100 Days of Reading Summer Challenge wraps up on September 8th, World Literacy Day. So far, we've had 2,456 patrons register for the Reading Challenge, with a total of 70,369 days of reading logged. With a minimum of 20 minutes a day read, that's almost 1.5 million minutes read. 1,243 readers completed the challenge by reading for 30 days. 761 readers went the extra mile and read for 50 days. 267 readers went above and beyond and read for 75 days. And I'm excited to see how many readers will have read the entire 100 days once September 8th hits. We held our annual full staff meeting on Thursday, August 17th at the main library. 120 staff members gathered to hear updates from administration, a presentation on library safety from LPD, refresh their knowledge of our electronic resources, and participate in some library trivia and team building activities. Staff also had a chance to pause to de-stress with some puppies and kittens brought by the Acadian Animal Aid. I'm not sure who enjoyed it more, the pets or the staff. I also want to thank the Library Foundation for providing the funds to purchase breakfast for the staff. They enjoyed a nice spread to kick off the morning. September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, and we are releasing our 7th annual limited edition library card. This year's card features a whimsical illustration titled "Let's Read a Book." It's by author and artist Denise Gallagher. The new card will be available starting Friday, September 1st. So if you already have a card, you can get a replacement art card for just $1, and that can become your new card if you want. September is also the Friends of the Library's Fall Book Sale. It is scheduled for September 13th through 16th at the Hyman Center. Books are sold by the inch, so there's no better deal in town. The Library Foundation is continuing with incoming President Kylan Jordan's Back to Basics plan, which includes voting on revised bylaws, highlighting committee revamping, and digital voting if necessary. And finally, I attended a Seed Library Subcommittee meeting.
What?
Seed Library Subcommittee meeting, which has been very popular. We've had to completely restock it. We ran out.
What is that?
I mentioned it a few board meetings ago. It launched mid-April. On the way out tonight, you will see an old school card catalog. When you exit the stairs or elevators, tucked away in the corner to the right, we provide seeds for free.
You're talking about plant seeds, right?
Plant seeds.
Oh, okay.
They can take
I thought it was an acronym for something in library world.
No, we just want people to learn basic gardening and growing techniques, and we're working on implementing programs to help supplement the seeds we're giving so they can have the knowledge and the skills to be able to do it. And there will be a hydroponic tower soon, so you'll actually see things growing in the library.
Oh, cool. All right, thanks. Okay, any questions from the board? No? Okay. Facilities and update and financial report.
All right, not much to report on facilities. The architect, the Sellers Group is currently working on the construction documents of the South Regional Library renovations project. I don't have an ETA on that. I know they are working on it. The North Regional Library renovations, the architect, Angel Architects, is also working on that for the design development phase, and I spoke with them this morning, and they're hoping to get something to the board by October. So we're close on that one. We'll get that to you as soon as we can.
I thought we did this already.
What?
I thought we did this already. Remember when we voted on the roof, that we were gonna go with a metal roof?
Yeah, there's
We said,
multiple.
Yeah, move forward and do it.
There's multiple phases.
Okay,
Yeah. Multiple phases of each project.
okay. So
Schematic design, design development, construction document, bidding, award, multiple phases.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for clearing it up for me. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Very much. Go ahead. You got some more?
No, that was it on facilities. I'll move on to financials unless anyone has anything else.
So we're, as far as, let me go back to the, so as far as the board's concerned, we've done what we can do, and now it's in the hands of the process to actually have the work done.
You have to approve each phase because the numbers change. The dollar amounts change. As you've seen, we've had dramatic increases in construction costs.
Oh, yeah.
So we bring each phase to the board to make sure you are aware what's happening. If we make any changes, we want you to be aware of that as well. That way, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, we're not doing stuff outside of board purview.
Correct.
That's under our purview.
Correct, and if we would like to do anything different, we want to make sure you are involved in the process
Okay,
by
great.
requesting that at each phase.
Okay, great, thank you, I
Yes.
appreciate that very much.
Sure.
Okay.
On the-
Anything else?
Okay. On to the financials. As of August 14th, 2023, the library has collected $12.6 million in revenues and have spent right around $9 million. We are comparable in expenses from this time to last year. So our revenues are definitely outperforming what we did last year, and our expenses are holding steady. So we're doing well. Certainly projecting a surplus this year. Everything's looking good.
Larry, I have a question about an item. Maybe you can help me read this correctly. Vehicle subsidy leases, I'm looking at 432,795, or is that administrative cost? Which one is that go with?
What was the account?
Is it administrative cost? 432,795, is that correct? It's on page 3. Midway down.
Yes.
Okay. That's administrative cost.
Yes, we pay Lafayette Consolidated Government for their services.
Oh, that's for
It's a
them?
mandated cost, yes.
Okay. LCGs. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, very good. Okay. We'll move on to new business unless, any board members have any other questions from Mr. Angel?
No, but thank you for your hard work. I've been looking at some of the history of what y'all do, and y'all put a lot of work into what y'all do, so thank you.
Okay, new business bylaws. Ladies and gentlemen, according to our bylaws, it takes 5 members to change the bylaws. We do not have 5 members, so even if everybody here voted to change the bylaws, we can't. So this item needs to be postponed to another date. So I'll make a motion that the item number A under bylaws, and we got 2 A's here on the agenda. That's just sort of a typo. But this first one about the bylaws changes, I'm gonna make a motion that we postpone this indefinitely until another date. And do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment about moving the postponing the bylaw to another date?
No.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I'll call for question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we're gonna postpone Next item, Northeast Library land. The board will discuss land options for Northeast Library. Board may take action. I'm gonna turn this over to and recognize Ms. Ella. You asked that this item be placed on the agenda, so I'll have you recognized.
Okay, thank you. Since I am new to the board and I asked people, what it is that they wanted in a new library, and got mixed answers from people, but one of the things that concerns me about it is there's no plan in place. So we're gonna be voting to purchase land, and we don't even know exactly what we're gonna put on it. How many citizens we will be serving, the size of the library, what materials will be housed in the library. One of the things that I had heard people say in the community is the library might be different than other libraries that we see in the community. It may require more technology to serve the needs of the people on the northeast side, and I just want to know what else is needed. So I'd like to ask Mr. Kelly if you would help me understand the needs of the community on the northeast side.
Well, if we're speaking from just a library perspective, I know that I grew up on that side of town, and I know what it's like to have to ride a bike across the highway to get to the library here, and just some of the barriers that it creates. But if it's just to discuss the needs of the community, we have 4 greater needs in regards to leading a library, but the truancy rate, the literacy rate, so many other facets that affect our children in that area. I do think the library would be a great benefit for the kids in that area. Access is certainly, accessibility is important to what I see. I actually pastor on that side of town. But it can be maybe discussed to have something deeper than just a library. As you mentioned, possibly a community center involved with that, and just other facets to meet the need in the community more efficiently.
I'm glad that you said that, because when I look at everything that we are offering the community and stuff, I want to make sure that it's something that really benefits the needs of the people that we will be serving on the northeast side. Just to build a library, to say that we built a library, is not enough for me, and it can't be enough for the people on that side. So I want thought to be put into what will be brought to that side. We say build a library, and when we talk about that, I think about the truancy that I see in the Lafayette Parish school system. I serve on 4 of the Love Our School cafes. We have 3 top goals in our cafes: truancy, literacy, and teacher retention. So if we're gonna build a library, there's a lot of things that we need besides just the library. And it might not be for the library system to fund everything that is needed on the northeast side, but we really need to start having a community discussion about what is honestly needed for the people on the northeast side. Homelessness, jobs, housing problems, counseling for children and their families, resources to help educate families so that they can make a better life for their families. So whenever the committee does put together a plan, I want all of this to be considered, and maybe we can have a small library, but also have something else that is attached to it that would provide the resources for the families on the northeast side of town. I came across an organization called My Community Cares. I don't know that much about them, but I know that they have been trying to figure out where they can have a hub here in Lafayette so that they can work with existing nonprofits, businesses, LPSS, hospitals, other organizations in the community, so that people could come to them and they could make sure that they connect the people with the right resources. So I would, love to connect someone to talk to the people at My Community Cares about bringing something.
Thank you for sharing that. Certainly, there's a lot of needs. I think the libraries definitely be value added to help them fill in the gap. Such a deficiency in literacy.
Mm-hmm.
We need a library inside of town,
Yes.
and I'm saying that not because I want to see it. I just know personally from a young man having to not get my bike stolen from trying to get to the public library. If they had something closer to that wasn't divided by highways, I know that for sure. And I would love to see more community focus to meet the needs specifically, if that's in our power to do so. At least have that discussion. The land, I think it's great location, and that's my thoughts on that. And thank you for being concerned about that, because being able to pastor there, we certainly see firsthand the needs there.
Are we going to be discussing land now?
I was gonna, hold on a second, not right now. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to comment?
Please.
Regarding the land or just
The whole thing. It wasn't specified, the agenda item was pretty wide open because there was no specific to it. So we left it open like that on purpose.
No, same. I was just gonna I'm probably just gonna echo Ms. Ella there. I do agree a plan needs to be put in place, and I'm not sure what the process is gonna be. I don't think most of us were here whenever the Star Library was done. So just so we can make sure we have everything in place, a plan. Like we're saying, I don't know if just because we secure the land, is that gonna tie us in to continue moving forward? But obviously that plan's gonna be needed. I don't know. So yeah, just same concerns as Ms. Ella. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ella, you wanted to ask a question about land?
Okay, yes. LPSS did a proposal on a land. We have the Shadow Bluff land, but one that I have not heard the board talk about is one at off of Willow. I did speak to Laura Blossom. Her family owns that land on Willow. She said that the family would be willing to negotiate and even donate a portion of the land to the library system. They would love to see a library / community type center on that land. But I just wanted to throw it out there. But one more I'm gonna throw in the mix is Brown Park. But if you want to discuss Willow first, I'll say something about Brown Park afterwards.
The board, the discussion's open for all of these things that are going on right now with all of it. So if
Okay,
you
well,
want,
Brown Park. I was at a public meeting recently and I heard someone talk about Brown Park is being renovated. I thought I heard someone say that there would be a library at Brown Park, and I don't know if I misheard, and that's why I just wanted to throw it out there in the public and clear the air, because I don't like misconceptions, I don't like perceptions. So I just want to know,
Okay,
is there going to be a library there?
no. Danny, was there ever a plan to put a satellite or something at Brown Park, or was there?
There has not been a plan to put a library at Brown Park. May I address some of Ms. Ella's concerns that she brought up? Or
Well, I don't know, she didn't ask you a question.
Well, I would love to hear what you have to say. Anyone who could shed light on this.
So we gotta be careful, because if Ms. Ella wants to ask you a question, she can absolutely ask you a question. I don't want to interject and say, yeah, go ahead, and that's not where she wanted to go, because she has the floor.
Please.
Okay, so you mentioned about planning. Once we buy the land, that is when we start the planning process for what exactly the library will be that is on that land. With regard to sharing a community center, we can't legally do that. I have been reminded, and I have heard both in board meetings and from the public about, this is not necessarily what was said, but for lack of a better term, staying in my lane, we cannot build a community center. We are a library. So if we buy the land and someone wants to put a community center on there, they can't. And this body does not have the ability to do that. It would have to be the parish council would have to step in and decide how we did that. With regard to the committee being formed, Mr. Judge and James at not the last meeting, at one of the meetings when they established the committee said that when we bought land, the committee would then be created and would shepherd us through until we opened the doors. So that's already in place. If the people on Willow wish to donate land to us, the only conversations I have had involved purchasing land and the possibility of donating the rest of the land. I've heard a lot of conversations about whether or not we need 6 acres or not. Well, if we don't need 6 acres, what are we going to do? We have to maintain the property that's donated to us. So if we bought 6 acres on Willow and they gave us 9 acres, we are taking on the responsibility of maintaining 9 acres. That's where we are with all of the things that you've mentioned. If you have any specific questions about anything, I'm just trying to keep up.
That's okay. If they would donate the land and the library does not need the land, could we gift it to LCG?
Technically, it belongs to LCG at that point.
When we talk about land, would one of the parks, like Brown Park, be a good location to have a library since the government or since LCG already owns the land?
I don't know what Brown Park is, first off. Secondly, one of the conversations that has come up more than once with regard to the need for a library on the other side of the Evangeline Thruway is we have on more than one occasion built a library where someone gave us land twice. East Regional is located in a park that LCG owns, and North was donated land from Karen Crow, which I was not even employed here at the time. So, but we have had conversations about whether or not that would have been the best place to serve the area that we're now trying to serve. So I don't know if Brown Park would be a good location. Perhaps Mr. Kelly has a better idea in terms of what would serve the community.
Yeah, question, this is just a question, not directed to anyone, but how long have we been having this discussion about a library? How many years, how long has it been before my time? Just a question I wanna know, how long have we been talking about having a library on this side of town?
2018.
The Consolidated Council moved $8 million into the capital fund to build a library in 2018.
So 2018?
Yeah, well, let me, I can help answer some of that question too. The money was moved into 2018. As far as I know, the first movement in this regard to actually begin this process started in late 2021 about. It was right when Mr. Palumbo was leaving as president and I took the office. So that would have been October of 2021, would have been about the time actual movement of this discussion and really trying to move this forward began. So in reality, the money was there since 2018, but it sat there and nothing was done until that time, and that's when Mr. Palumbo created the first committee that looked at this process and where we were going. Since then, we've kind of moved the ball along a little bit. We actually had made a decision on the property across from Northside High School, which is next to Infinity College. Those negotiations broke down. There was an impasse that was reached and just simply, we didn't have an agreement. So that put us back to, okay, now what? And so this is kind of where we've come to at this point. We've had a couple of people come forward, a couple of private owners come forward to make proposals, one of which that happened relatively recently was LPSS. There was some, and I haven't seen, I guess I have seen, but maybe if somebody remembers, maybe Ella remembers exactly what the numbers were for LPSS and the property, but I don't know if there was an overview of the parameters of it, how much frontage it had, et cetera, but it's essentially across the street from Shadow Bluff. Now, that location essentially is the same location, just on one side of the street or the other. But it's, Shadow Bluff has some cleared land, maybe an acre and a half, and the one across the street is not cleared at all.
So I asked the question just so we all would know that we've been trying to move it forward, but I think it's time to, as much as we can, and if there's good property in place and good proposals and the numbers match the budget, and it's allocated $8 million, and it's been since 2018, and I think it's incumbent upon us to make a decision and get it done. As we know, we don't have the power to do certain things, but we can at least bring it forward. Last I heard, the council is ready to move forward. Last I heard.
I have to agree. It has been a while. People have been waiting for this. The only thing that I ask is whatever is put there, that there's a lot of thought put into it that meets the needs of the people on the northeast side of town. If we're gonna do this, I gotta put my name on it. I want it done right. You know, it's got to serve the people and their needs. And so if we can work with other people to get that done.
Yep.
So you're telling me there is a need. Good.
Well, I think you'll hear from these comments here today how passionate the people are about having that library on this side of town. It's almost a to see so much development around and not see emphasis placed here on the north side of town. It could be discouraging. So
Yeah, and I'm not trying to discourage anyone, anything I say to people. You know, when I, like I said, when I think of a library being built, I think about the truancy, and it bothers me that we're gonna build a library, and what about truancy? So I just wanna put that out there, and I want us to help focus on that. Help LPSS with that. Help the law enforcement with that, because it shouldn't be their job to go to someone's house and tell a kid to get out of bed and go to school. That should be the parent and the child's responsibility, but I am for helping people. I've been doing that for 24 years, so I just want to do it right.
Thank you. Do we have anything from the board?
Mr. President, just like to, one thing,
Yes, Mr. Bigron.
I want to commend Danny here and his staff. I know back in May, I think we gave y'all the okay to go ahead and look for the properties. So we trusted them with looking at the property, and since then they've gone and done the legwork. And I agree with what they've sent us so far between then and now. So at this moment, if there was any like top 3 or top locations, I'm just gonna go ahead and just say that I agree with the last place that they looked at, which was the Shadow Bluff location. So at this moment, I guess I want to thank you and the team for doing all that legwork. And as of right now, if there was any like top 3 or top 1, this is it for now, unless some other property has come about since then. But it doesn't look like it has. I think we should try to maybe see what we can do to go forward with this, unless something else comes up.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you just said? I didn't quite hear.
I want to make sure we do what we can to go forward with this preferred site, unless something else has came up, another property has come up, but it hasn't. So just, that's kind of where I stand with this as far as the property, is I trust Danny and them with what they went outside and did the legwork with.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ella, you would like to be recognized again?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Mr. Kelly, the property at Shadow Bluff, would that property meet all the needs and the criteria that the committee was looking for in a property? Would that be a great location? A good location? Be honest.
Well, you know, it's to say all the nuances, logistics from kids and households and numbers with North Side and, you know, JW Falk. It looks that way. I don't have all the nuanced answers to that. But it looks very promising to the development that's coming there. Not only that, the businesses that are coming there. So it looks like the projection going forward looks pretty good to have a library. I think probably just speaking, maybe another 200 houses possibly in the next 10 years. That's 200 kids and families that possibly would need a library there. But again, it has to make sense financially. It has a few other things that have to be discussed in going forward. But I do think so. In my humble opinion, it's a good location for it. Yeah.
The best out of the 4 that we just discussed, well, Brown Park, that was just something I was throwing out there because what I heard in the community. The one on Willow and the school board's property, comparing those 3, in your opinion?
I'll probably need to be more in the know about the other location. I think the president was saying it's just right across the street. Is that correct?
The LPSS, the school board location is essentially across the street.
Okay.
And the
From
one
Louisiana, on Louisiana.
Yes,
So
sir.
if you're heading north on Louisiana Avenue and you get to Shadow Bluff runs around and goes by the gas station. And then right at that corner, the LPS's property is across from, on Louisiana Avenue, be the left side of the road, the Shadow Bluff's on the right side of the road, either facing one.
And the one on
Is that
Willow?
correct? That's my understanding. That is correct. Okay.
And the property on Willow is right there by Northside High School, and JW Falk is across the street, just to let you know.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
If there's nothing from the board, we'll go to the next item, which is the executive session. So the board will go to.
Wait,
Yeah,
the
Ms.
public
Elliott.
comments?
I'm
Public
sorry?
comments?
Do you have? we have.
He's not
public
gonna let
comments
anybody
on this
public
item?
comment.
No, actually, the only time the public comments on something is there's a vote before the board.
So make a motion.
On something. Since if there's no
Let
vote.
everybody speak.
If there's no vote, if there's nothing to vote, that vote's.
I knew
on.
this was coming.
The only,
Mhm.
the public can comment on it, but it would be commented at the end on section 10, actually. If they
Mr.
wanted to add their comment.
Mr. Kelly, would you like to make a motion for one of the properties?
Yes.
You have to say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a
So I'll make a
motion, state what
to,
the motion is, please.
to bring before the board to take action on the property on the Shadow Bluff location, to move forward with.
I second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now, public comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Okay, Mr. Wayne Colvin.
Yeah, Steve, I sent y'all correspondence, Wayne Colvin, Lafayette. I sent y'all correspondence on this library branch, and it's a question I've been asking for a couple of years now. How many visitors are we gonna have at this library? You know, and, cause that determines everything else. Determines how much land you have to buy, what size building you have. And the other thing is, what are we gonna offer? Is it just a library, or is it a library and a storage building? Are you clear about that? Is it one or the other? Cause I don't, you know, I think everybody here is library, but is there anything else tied to this? You know, and I brought up, and it's alluded to Scott, and we're like, what's the relationship with Scott? Why do we tie it to that? Why do we need 6 acres if we don't know what it is? Any marketing plan for a business says, this is what my expected customer count will be, and therefore, you know, I want to have this size building to serve these customers. So this is what you have, and this is how much land you use, you know. So that's all kind of tied together. That's what I tried to outline in my correspondence to y'all to consider. Get some numbers down in this thing. I'm not opposed to the library. I think it ought to be there somewhere. I don't think you ought to, you can operate it quickly, get a lease location, build up some things, decide what services that the people really want, in particular the future, because we know it's changed a whole lot in the last 4 years. iPhones, you know, a lot of internet, free internet over there, you know, Chromebooks, those kind of things that lessen the demand. So the services, the number of visitors is down 37% in the last 4 years. I mean, good gracious, you can't run from that. And I don't know why we tie it to Scott, and I don't know why we need so many spaces, why we need 6 acres, you know. What size building do we need, you know? That's what you gotta do. I mean, that's why I tried to present and said, try and tie this thing down to some kind of estimated something. And that's where, you know, get your lease location, and get it up and running in a few months' time, bank this money such that it can draw interest, and then you can say, okay, these are the services, this is the new technology, and then we can roll that in and decide what we need, whether we need a big room with big screens like this to serve the things, or truancy, or some of these other services that we decide we need. But you can migrate it, but you can get it up and running and help the people out now. You know, we're talking about building. We did that with all the libraries. We did that with South Library, we did that with East, you know, we did that with West. You know, we had a small library, we knew what the demand was, and those are growing areas. And unfortunately, this area is not growing.
Thank you.
And Mr. Francesco Croco.
That's a difficult name on Italian.
Which last name, sorry?
It's pronounced Croco.
Croco.
I tell people it's like crocodile.
Okay.
Francisco? Is it Francisco?
Francesco.
Francesco?
Francesco.
Croco.
That's it. Lots of C's.
Very good.
All right. So thank you very much, and I'm so glad that this has come up for a motion here today. I'm here actually representing Move the Mindset. I'm the president of Move the Mindset. And I'm here to encourage the board to take action on one of these promising properties, particularly the property you mentioned, which is available for the Northeast Library. I'm joined here today by members and supporters in the audience. And in a moment, I will read a resolution that we prepared. But first, I'd like to narrate some of the history that came up earlier to explain how we got here today so that we understand why this decision is so urgent and long overdue. Since 2005, the Lafayette Parish Library System has constructed, to my knowledge, at least 4 full-service libraries on land that was purchased in predominantly white areas of Lafayette Parish. These are new constructions on purchased land. In 2018, as we were told, the City Parish Council set aside $8 million for a new library in Northeast Lafayette, a predominantly black area. In 2021, a citizens committee, which represented the community, rejected leasing and recommended buying land to build a new library. This board agreed in 2022. Since then, Library Director Danny Gillane has instituted cuts and other changes so that the system can afford to staff and operate a new Northeast Regional Library. So at this point, the fact is it would be fiscally irresponsible for the board to delay action any further. And why? The longer it delays, we know that the construction costs will increase. We've seen it happen already with other projects because of inflation and supply chain issues. The need is there. We know this. That hasn't changed. So I just want to stress, residents of Northeast Lafayette have waited long enough. The money's been there for 5 years. Now is the time to act. So I want to read this resolution that we drafted unanimously on July 10th. Here goes. Whereas Move the Mindset is a grassroots 501c3 civil rights organization committed to promoting racial and social justice through education, the arts, dialogue, and direct action. Whereas the residents of Northeast Lafayette need a public library. Whereas there is widespread popular and political support for this library. Whereas the Northeast Library Exploratory Committee determined that the best course of action was to purchase land rather than to lease and to construct a new building. Whereas the library administration has funds dedicated to do this. Whereas several properties are now available for purchase in Northeast Lafayette that meet the criteria. Whereas further delays would be fiscally irresponsible by incurring additional costs. Whereas all due diligence has been conducted and it would be injurious to residents of Northeast Lafayette to delay further. Be it resolved that Move the Mindset supports the purchase of a property within the current year for the timely construction of a permanent and accessible full-service library.
Thank you.
Forrest Shassel.
Thank you, Forrest Shassel. I'm one of the black men of Greater Lafayette. I just want to concur with what the previous speaker just said. 100 black men of Greater Lafayette joins Move the Mindset in encouraging this board to do the right thing. And like he said, initially the argument was that there was no money to build a library. In 2018, Councilman Boudreaux found money to build a library. The next argument was there was no, we didn't have a place to build it. An exploratory committee was formed, and we found 3 or 4 locations to build it. The next argument was there was no money to operate the library. Danny, in his great wisdom, found a way to make that happen. So there should not be any more arguments today. Mr. Kelly, thank you for making your motion on the Shadow Bluff property. That wasn't my first option. I did like the Infinity College location, but that other, this present location is in close proximity to that. So I ask that this board move and stop kicking this can down the road. We've waited long enough for this library. Thank you.
Claire Delcom.
Claire Delcom.
Yeah, move your mic down, dear, please.
Claire
Thank you.
Delcom. watched this process for several years, and yes, the can's been kicked down the road. These arguments have gone on and rehashed, and it's time to end it. It's embarrassing to see the delays that have actually added to more costs because of the raise in the amount of building construction. We've got the money, take advantage of it before the costs go up more. You've got so much of this parish that is to the east side of the Evangeline Thruway and Highway 90. This all the east side. That's a lot of area, and these people are not served. It's not safe to be crossing that highway when there are children involved. I mean, this board member here had to risk life and limb, and the traffic's worse now than it ever was. For the safety of the children, for the education of the children, for the betterment of our entire community, all people need to be treated fairly and have the same resources. Thank you.
Ms. Consuela Gaines.
Good evening. My name is Consuela Gaines. I'm a chapter organizer with Voice of the Experience, better known as VOTE. And we represent the currently and formerly incarcerated population. As we all know, Louisiana has the highest rate of incarceration, not just in the country, but in the world. And a lot of these people who are released from incarceration are housed on the northeast of Lafayette, Louisiana. And oftentimes, I include myself because I'm formerly incarcerated, need accessibility to resources such as a library, as we continue our education, as we continue to look for employment. We need to be able to have that type of access. And a lot of this population doesn't have transportation. So just imagine leaving from the northeast side and trying to get to this location. It's a barrier, as we face many, many barriers already. And so I would just ask this board to move on this and be able to provide a space where all citizens, including formerly incarcerated people and their families, will be able to be provided the necessary resources, and that will curb recidivism in the city of Lafayette. And I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Mary Garcia.
Mary Garcia, Lafayette Parish. Thank you, Mr. Kelly, for the motion. It's way past time to fish a cut bait on this. I will not repeat what Mr. Crocco said. I am a very proud member of Move the Mindset and Women of Wisdom. My children live in Karen Crow. There are no full service libraries at all on the east side of Evangeline Thruway, and there are 9 on the west side, and that's not right. Really? I have served as a Lafayette Parish School Board member. I'm very familiar with the problems of truancy, but respectfully, truancy is not the primary issue that is facing us right now. What's facing us is giving our children the educations that they need and the interest that they must have in order to successfully move into careers and to get through school. If they don't know how to read, they're going to be truant and they're going to be getting into trouble. So let's start at the right place. Let's start by increasing literacy in a safe place, which is what our public libraries are. I moved back to Louisiana after being gone for 23 years. I moved back in 2018. I have been coming to library board meetings, school board meetings too, ever since. Watching this issue drag on and on and on. Construction costs are going up, land costs are going up. One of the things that we have not heard tonight or been asked is what our staff's recommendation is. We've heard references to it, but I would like a board member to ask our staff what they recommend. The studies have been done. Insofar as the land, the amount of land that's needed, 5 to 6 acres is not going to be wasted. We're paying now for a warehouse to take care of books, and that warehouse can be built on this property as well. But the main thing is that a library doesn't have to be a community center, but it is a safe place. There are meeting rooms, and so it serves a lot of purposes other than just books and technology, which are important. So I'm going to ask you to please call on your staff and let's get this thing moving. The money is there. The operating means are there. The staff has done a great job. I think it would be a wonderful legacy for this board to be able to put this into action. And yes, I think that the community needs to be involved. That's a very good suggestion, but it shouldn't delay anything, and it doesn't have to, because that can go on concurrently with the design of the facility. And if adjustments have to be made, it's called change orders. So, thank you.
Mr. Hernandez?
Hello, my name is Kerry Hernandez. I'm a citizen of Lafayette Parish. I have 3 areas. One is the land, 2 is content of the library, and who do I donate, who do I call to give some books to the library, if they accept such. Regarding the land, I think, you're Mr. Kelly, correct? Is a great motion. I know you hesitate a little bit about that property. I mean, if that's the best property, so be it. But I think that the board should look at every single property and look at the pros and cons. I agree with having a place for our juvenile delinquents and others to go to. And that's all I want to say about that. As far as content of the library, I'd like to see one built like the one on, is that Southside Library? What's the one down?
Johnston Street?
Dig in?
Johnston Street?
Yeah, Johnson Street. What's the name of that library?
South Branch.
What is it?
South
Region. South Region Library, okay. I'd like to see it just like that one with this room, okay? And then have some storage for library things and whatever the board comes up with. I'm a physician, I'm an emergency physician, I'm retired. I use the library as much as I can. I have some things I want to go out there and do, but I haven't had time to do it in regards to music. But they have quiet rooms that I go there and read all the time because it's quiet. Number 2, I've been there at some conference. We had a conference there. A gentleman was writing a book and he wanted some input. And it's a small room, holds about 8 people. That's all we needed. It's soundproof. They got computers. They have a lot of new things I don't even know about. They got a big children's section. What I love is when you walk into the library, they got this bookcase full of books that are cheap. I bought about 5 books off of that. I can mention what they are, and I mentioned one. One was a CD of Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill talking over the 3 years and talking about the World War II. It was $5. I passed that around to numerous people. But that's all I have to say about content. And then the other thing is I just need who to talk to in regard to donation of books. Who would I talk to? Who?
The Friends of the Library.
Friends of the Library.
The same people who
Are you
stock the shelf.
Are you a friend of the library?
I am not. I'm the assistant director.
If you would direct me to the right person, and that's all I have to say, Mr. Robert. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Glenn Lazard?
Good evening, everyone. I am Glenn Lazar, City Council, City of Lafayette, District 5, which encompasses the entire area east of the Evangeline Thruway, from the northern city limits on the other side, from I-10 actually, to the southern city limits on Grove Ridge Highway. I'm not going to repeat everything that's already been said by everyone to save some of my energy for tomorrow night. In any event, I want to first of all thank Danny and the staff for clearing all the obstacles to make this project happen. We're at the point now where there are no more excuses. The district I represent has the highest poverty rate of any district in the city. The lowest average household income, the lowest percentage of home ownership, the lowest percentage of families with private transportation. All the studies have been done. The need is well documented. There are no more excuses. All funds are available. All the studies have been done. I will admit, Mr. Harris, your property wasn't my first choice, but you know that. But at this particular point, it's the best option at this point. I think it will work. Brown Park simply would not work because of the geographics of it being north of I-10. This library will serve an area extending basically from Pointe de Mouton all the way to the Grove Ridge Highway. So at this particular point, this is the best option. It's time to move forward with this project and get it done. Thank you.
Gary Williams.
Good evening. I'm not playing games. My name's Gary Kennedy from Parish Council District 5. That's my district. I heard what you said, but I respect this man right here. Everything he said, we need a library on that side. The reason why we need that library on that side because I live on that side. My district's on that side. My church is on that side. And if you're talking about truancy, that got nothing to do with the library. We need a library for our children. And I'm standing up for our children not because I'm running for office, it's because I love our children in the community of Lafayette. And our children are the future. And we do need a library for our children. And that's why I'm standing behind my pastor tonight, because the way he said it, I'm standing with him. I know him because he teaches our children, he ministers to us in our church, and he's the greatest pastor on that side of heaven, and he knows what he's talking about, because that's why I love my pastor. That's why we need a library on this side of heaven and on the north side. Thank you. God bless you.
Mejia, yeah.
My name is Lynette Mejia. I live in Karen Crow. I wasn't actually going to speak tonight, but I'm stunned, frankly, by what I've heard tonight. Ella, I appreciate you putting this on the agenda. I appreciate your questions. But frankly, Ella's been on this board for 2 months now. She's clueless. Literally the only thing she knows about what's going on with this library is the questions she's asked of people in the community. She should have been briefed about the history of the Northeast Library project that this board has taken upon itself for the last 5 years. And she wasn't. She has no idea what's going on. And I appreciate the initiative she's taken, but this is sad. Mr. Kelly, I appreciate the motion that you put forward tonight, but there should have been a motion ready to go tonight. as numerous people have said, this project is long overdue. Every bit of it has been ready to go. As many people in this room know, I've been around since the beginning of this project. So is Mr. Judge. I was here during the meeting when Mr. Judge strutted up and down the room telling everybody how if he needed to, he would close Southside Library in order to get Northeast built. Still hasn't happened. There should have been a motion ready to go. It shouldn't have been on Miss Ella to put this on the agenda tonight. It should have been Mr. Judge put this on the agenda. You should have had a motion ready to go for a property to be picked out amongst you tonight. If it hadn't been for you saying something and speaking up, if it hadn't been for you bringing it on the agenda, we would have sat here again with no action. It's pathetic and sad. I'm glad it's moving forward. Glad the parish council is going to move forward with it, hopefully tomorrow night. But I truly think that you all should pay attention. Take it to heart. Make sure you're informed. Thank you.
Mr. Pettis, can I say something?
That was the last one? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Before we go to a vote, the board I'll recognize anyone from the board if they have any further comments. You want to be recognized, Ms. Allen?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No. Someone asked if we should ask the library staff what they think, and I have asked the library staff, but I'll ask Mr. Danny again. Is the library needed on the northeast side? And just to let the public know, this library staff has done a great job. They did give me information. I have read through it. I asked questions in the public just to put it out there to make this public aware of the needs of the people on the northeast side of town, so that we can have honest, open discussions about the needs, including truancy, homelessness, people needing jobs on that side of town, and the other things that I had mentioned. I just wanted to let y'all know that. Mr. Galady, what say you on the northeast library?
I answered this board and to the elected parish council. The consolidated council decided we needed a library on the east side. This board and the committee that had formed last year decided we needed to build a library. My job has been to get that library there. Do I personally believe we need a library? Yes.
Thank you.
Obviously, we are passionate about it, and we know the need is there. I want to say something about President Robert Judge. I know oftentimes he gets a bad rep, or maybe you would sense bad energy from him, but I can tell you firsthand that he is passionate about the kids on the north side of town. We've had conversations about what's happening there. He has shown interest about what we're doing there. And I just want to say to everyone that his heart is in the right place. And his focus is to move the library forward. And I believe that he has provided, in the short time that I've been here, have briefed me well, and have provided good leadership in regards to the things that we're facing. It's not hard and it's not easy in this position. My first day on the board, there are people in this audience that was very rude and disrespectful to me on my first day on the board, volunteering my time. So I can imagine the 2 years how long he's been the president of this board. And it's certainly a need to make sure that we are respecting our president and that we're doing the best best we can to solve these problems together. My comments.
Mr. Padron, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize myself. A couple of years ago, after I came on board here, I did make the comment that this is a necessity. This was one of the areas in town that was underserved for a long time. In fact, it's my opinion that the library that's at North Regional should have been built where this one's being proposed now 15 years ago. That wasn't done. Danny mentioned the fact that we got donated land, so that's what we did. But that's just simply my opinion. So the question is, do we need to move forward with this and provide a library in that section of town for this part of the community? Yes. The second question becomes, and Mr. Wayne brought this out, what does it have to look like? What are the needs? What should it look like? So I'm going to reach back a little bit, and I'm going to go into, and I'm going to bore you with some of my, an anecdote about when I was teaching chemistry. Does anybody know a fellow named J.J. Thompson? Ever heard of J.J. Thompson? Ernest Rutherford, Niels Bohr, Max Planck. Okay, that's why these fluorescent lights work and they emit the type of light that they do. We have Max Planck to think about that. J.J. Thompson in the early mid-1800s came up with an idea that an atom, which was first proposed by Aristotle in the 300 BC, that an atom was the smallest particle of an element, of a substance. And that name stuck throughout millennia. Well, Thomson wanted to decide, he wanted to figure out what did it look like. We didn't know. And so he came up with this idea called the plum pudding model. And the plum pudding model was just that. That an atom looked kind of like plum pudding looks. It's kind of a cake, and then you got the nucleus, or the atoms, the protons and the electrons are just kind of in this mess, randomly. In the 1850s, a fellow by the name of Ernest Rutherford decided to test that idea. And he did. It's called the gold foil experiment in a slit. He shot radioactive rays through this slit on a, I won't go into detail, I'm sorry, I'm getting in the weeds. Anyway, and he found out that Thomson was wrong. His hypothesis was incorrect. And so he proposed something a little bit different. And then Niels Bohr did some more experimentation, found out that Rutherford wasn't quite correct either. And then after Niels Bohr, who proposed sort of this planetary model, so you have a nucleus and then you have the electrons that fly around it. Actually, Ernest Rutherford moved the ball forward because he realized that an atom was mostly empty space. I'll give you an example. If the nucleus of an atom were the size of a basketball, the clouds in the sky would be where the electrons are. That's the distance of roughly what an atom would look like on its scale. So if you can imagine a basketball this big, the clouds in the sky, that's where the electrons are. And the rest of it's just empty space. And then, obviously, after Niels Bohr, his planetary model was proved to be incorrect. We got to Max Planck and Heisenberg, and now we have what we know as the quantum mechanical model of an atom. Was my point, besides boring you with a chemistry lesson. The point is that as we gain data, we have to change our hypotheses if our hypothesis is wrong. We have to be willing to be exposed to new data. We have to be willing to look at what's there and not ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist because we have a passion about something. Real science is passionate about the process of finding. In fact, science is a process. It's not a thing. So whenever I used to tell my students, if somebody tells you that science is settled, they're lying to you. There's no such thing as science being settled. It's always developing because we don't have all of the data. We don't know everything. We don't even know what we don't know. What's the larger point here? The larger point here is that there is data here that show that the use of the library has decreased over the last 5 years tremendously. 37%, 35%, 45%, 56%, 32%, 22%, 67%, 32%. Those are just the different branches. 25% overall. So the question becomes, is do we need brick and mortar? And let me go to where my point is. So I want the board members, this information was sent to us recently. And one of the things that I looked at and I noticed was, and I don't particularly do this, but I know a lot of people do, is the ebook checkout, the audio checkout, the e-video, well, not the e-video to some degree, but the e-book checkout. In fiscal year 18-19, there were 180,024 e-book checkouts. In 2019-2020, which was a COVID year, 206,491. In 2020-2021, it was 2,009,646. Statistically, that's pretty much the same number. And in 21-22, it dropped back down again to 197, but still significantly higher than 180,024. And so amidst all of the numbers, one of the things that I noted was that the ebooks and the electronic attachment that people are using, that's gone up tremendously. And we see that. We have a phone here. You got a phone. You have Kindle on your phone. A lot of people do. I have Kindle on my phone.
Nope.
I don't like digital reading. I like books. I have books because I'm old school. But the movement now is toward this digital platform where people are reading things of that nature. Does that mean that we don't need a space? No, it doesn't mean we don't need a space. But what it means is, if we're going to use taxpayer money, and this is the thing that one of the things that bureaucrats and people on the other side of the aisle politically from me don't want to, or don't seem to want to understand, is that the money doesn't belong to you. It's not your money. The government has no money. It doesn't earn money. It doesn't make money. It doesn't generate money. It only takes money.
That's a lie.
Now, we voluntarily give it through our tax dollars. The government doesn't have any money. It only has taxpayer money. So we have to be very, very careful and judicious about how we spend taxpayer money.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, one of the things that
people.
strikes me is that in 20 years or 15 years, what's going to be the percentage of people that are using ebooks and simply doing it at home? I know I have family members that they use the ebooks. They go online, they go to the library website. That means the library is providing a service, absolutely. But they're using it in a digital platform and not in the traffic that comes and goes. For instance, in the Butler in 2021, 2022, it looks like there were 30 checkouts. That includes renewals. Why is that even open?
Because it's a closet.
365 days of the year. It's probably about 220, 240 days of business operation. There's only 30 people. So that's down 90%. Cheniere's down 51%. Duson's down 49%. East Regional down 7%. Milton's down 32%. North Regional down 33%. South Regional, the most popular, most used library other than Maine, is down 36%. These are checkouts, including renewals. Overall, 23%, 25% from all the locations. But checking out electronically is up 48%.
The white people all have Kindles.
To ignore this data and this information is completely irresponsible. because we are charged with doing something for the community that needs to be done. I do not deny that. But we don't know what needs to be done. And that therein lies the problem. If you know what needs to be done, you have to study. Now, people have said the studies have been done. There's no studies that have been done. We have no idea what the foot traffic's going to be. We don't have a clue. We haven't done anything at Maine to see what portion of the population from that area uses Maine. I know when it was the Academy was on Johnson Street near Camellia. When you go in and you buy something, it asks you what your zip code was. That's how they determined where to build the academy where it is now on Ambassador Catholic, because that's where the population was. Again, we don't ignore the reality of having something in that area. But to buy, we're going to buy 6 acres of land to build what? We don't know. What do we need? We don't know. How much foot traffic do you have? We don't know. No one can answer that question. No one has answered that question. To say that the studies have been done is disingenuous because it's simply not true. There have been no studies done. Now, just like J.J. Thompson, who realized his hypothesis was wrong, we have to be honest enough to realize that, well, sometimes we didn't get it right at first, and we had this opportunity to sort of pause and go, what do we need? Let's find out what we need. So I know this is up for a vote, but what I would like to see is to find a lease property, and several members of the committee, myself, Mr. Boudreau, and Mr. Padron, I'm sorry, not Mr. Padron, Mr. Palumbo, had really wanted to move in that direction. Now, one of the things that caused somebody to get their a burr under their saddle, as it were, was that the Holy Rosary property was completely dismissed, and I will take full responsibility for dismissing that property because they offered a 30-year lease, and legally, according to council, we couldn't do that because you can't. Then we'd have a building on a property that we lease for 30 years, and then we got to give it back to them because they own the property and we don't. And so just from a legal perspective, it could not be done, period. So you can't even consider it. It doesn't get out the gate, as it were. However, Holy Rosary does have a hall that they rent out for events. And I'm wondering if it would be possible to rent that place for a year or two, maybe 2 years, and I don't know how big it is, but rent it out for 2 years and offer something immediately so we can get some data in order to know exactly what it is that we need. So we don't know what we need, and therein lies the problem. I'll give you another example that we find ourselves in right now. North Regional Library was built, and when I first got on this board, it was proposed that North Regional be expanded because it was too small. Is it possible, and it is possible, we could build something that we don't know, basically a pig in a poke, and then all of a sudden, for 2-3 years later, it's too small. Then what do? You tell the taxpayers, oh wait, we didn't know what we were building, we didn't know why we were building it, we know why. We didn't know what we were building, we didn't know what size we needed, we had no studies to prove what we needed, and we're going to go to the taxpayers and say, oh, by the way, we built this building and it's too small and we need something bigger now. And we want you to pony up for us. Talk about irresponsible. I mean, I understand moving this project forward, but moving this project forward without the proper studies being done so that we build what is needed from the community. That's why Mr. James and I worked together to put together a committee to help find out what the needs are. But in the meantime, and we had suggested this before, the lease property allows us to put something in the community right now. It doesn't mean that we don't move forward with finding out what it is we do need and eventually building something that's more appropriate. But in the meantime, to just simply move forward without this data, faced with the numbers that we're faced with, I can't support that. That doesn't mean that I don't believe that it needs to be done. Those two things are distinctive, and they're separate from each other. So, that's all I have. I don't have any other comment. Any other board members would like to comment? No? We have a motion and a second. I'm sorry.
What was the criteria that was used to build the last 3 libraries? What was the?
You don't know anything.
Oh.
I don't, yeah. I know that South Regional they opened up, because I went there, a Place and Time Plaza, which is on Johnson Street above Ambassador Caffrey, and then eventually they built this one, which is probably the one in South now, is roughly, I would say, 2 miles away, about maybe 1.8 miles, something like that. But the first thing is that they released the property, and it gave us data. It gave the library data to find out what was needed in that community. So, yes, I agree that we need to have a library in that section of town, but we need some more data in order to know what it is we do need and what it should look like. And we simply don't have that right now.
Okay, can I make another? Okay, so we all agree that a library is needed. I think that we should move forward with purchasing the land, because if we can get it at a good deal, the price will be going up. We say we're gonna build something for the people on that side of town, a library, and it doesn't have to be a big library. All I'm asking for is that whatever we put, please, let it be thoughtful, let it honestly serve the people. That's all I'm saying. So I'm ready to move forward with purchasing the land. After we purchase that land, put that committee together, start talking about what that library is going to look like, what's going to be in it. I'm ready to move forward.
Thank you. Any of the board members have a comment?
I appreciate that dissertation.
Thank you. That was so kind.
A few years ago, I opened up a freestanding location on Mall Street when all the data told me, based upon leaving County Saloon Road, where my business originated from, to come on that side of town, that I would not be successful based upon numbers. And if I would have listened to the numbers at that time, I would have lost close to $300,000 in sales that I've made on the north side of town, because most of the customers are driving either to Scott or to Bruce or to Youngsville to get their auto glass done. So I understand from a numbers perspective and a data perspective, that makes sense. And to my working mind, that makes sense, that if it doesn't necessarily fit, and if it's going to be an overkill or overreach or not being good stewards over the taxpayers' money, then that makes sense. I think in this situation, the risk is well worth it, because there's so much that's unknown, but it's for the community, and it brings something that is we've been hoping for a period of time. When I say we, I don't speak for everyone, but for the north side of town, that is needed. And if we don't have efficient data for the other libraries based upon the unknown and it worked, then I think it's a necessary risk in my opinion.
Mr. Pedrone?
Thank you for those numbers. That was really good. However, I think we can cover the other, expenditures on the forward end, right? Like, I've already heard a bunch of misuse at the other previous libraries, right? So maybe when that time comes, we can use that time to be a little bit more wiser, right, with whatever amenities, extra things that's going to go into the other building. But it's gave me something to think about. However, I don't know how much this is going to delay something going forward. So the other thing too is I'm kind of torn if this is going to approve the land without the other board members here. I wasn't sure how thoughtful that was. Because with the board members here, and So I wasn't sure if, I know we couldn't vote on the first one, that's a bylaw,
Correct, we can't.
but is that, I'm guessing that doesn't apply for this one, correct?
Correct. The bylaws specifically need 5 votes. It says so in the bylaws, but to pass resolutions and do other business, we need a majority, with a minimum of 4 votes, which was, we discussed that before, when we did the bylaws. And when we passed it, that was the motion that passed. So, we can move with 4 members. We can. Your concern, I have that concern as well, frankly, that the other board members on here to move this forward. I'm gonna offer an amendment. Ms. Ella, you made a good point, and this is true. That land becomes expensive and they're not making any more of it. So, since that's the case, I'll make an amendment that if we purchase the land, if we vote to purchase the land, that we also find within the next 30 days, let's say 45 days, a piece of property that we can lease, somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet in the general area. I'm sure we can find something. We maybe even be able to go to Holy Rosary and ask them if we can lease that property for them for a period of time. And that way we can get some data to incorporate into what it is that we want to do. So with that, I'll make a motion to amend the original proposal to include that at the immediate, we find a leased property that will allow us to open up a library pretty quickly in that area, and with some basics. It would be some basics, some computers and some study rooms or something like that we can refit. So that's my motion, to include in the original, to amend it to include a leased property to be purchased within the next 45 days.
Public comment.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So if we're deciding that we're gonna build a library, is it really necessary to spend the extra money renting space and a library?
People can clap.
No, I'm just, I wanna be responsible, you wanna be responsible. And your questions and your information that you did share with us is very valid. To purchase land without knowing what we're gonna put on it is kind of risky, but to Mr. Kelly's point, sometimes we need to take a risk. We all know there's a need on the northeast side. Exactly what that is to help, that we gotta figure out. But I'm not sure if we need to purchase space for a temporary library. Some honest discussions with people in the community on the northeast side do need to take place about what would be needed.
Okay.
I don't know.
Thank you. If there's no other board comments, we'll call for a vote.
Nope.
On what, sir? A vote on what?
Well, we don't have a second on, I offered an amendment, there was no second on it, so it doesn't exist. So the original motion was to purchase the Shadow Bluff property. That's the motion that's before the board. So, we'll call for a vote. Ms. Alla?
Aye.
And we'll do this by single. Ms. Alla votes aye.
Yes.
Mr. Padron?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Judge? No. Motion fails. All right, that is for the Northeast Library. Now we're
It's
moving
not
to
enough
executive
people.
session.
You need a motion with a second.
Yeah, I need a motion and a second.
4 is the
I'll make a
majority
motion
of
that
the
we move
board.
into executive session.
So you
Any
need a
further
majority.
discussion?
You
We have a
need
second?
all of them to vote yes for it to pass.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Okay.
That's it.